Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Today our focus is going to be on solving two-step inequalities. These are a little bit more complicated than the ones you've been practicing the past couple days, but we've solved a lot of equations this year that look just like these inequalities, and we're going to put those same skills to work. So this first question says solve the inequality and graph the solution. I have negative 12 is greater than or equal to 10 plus 11h. So I need to solve this inequality and get h by itself. I'm going to treat this inequality symbol just like I used to treat my equal sign. So I'm going to put my train tracks down around it, and I'm going to pretend that this is an equal sign. So I'm going to treat it just like any other equation I would solve. The first thing that I see that I need to move away from my h is the positive 10. I have a 10 that's at the beginning of this side of my inequality. I don't want that there. I just want h by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 10 from both sides. 10 minus 10, that cancels out. Negative 12 minus 10 would be negative 22. You could always grab your calculator if you weren't sure. Negative 22 is greater than or equal to 11h. Now I see that I need to do something about this 11. I know that 11h means 11 times h, so the opposite is going to be dividing both sides by a positive 11. That cancels out, 11 divided by 11, so I'm left with h on this side, and 22, negative 22, divided by 11 is going to leave me with an answer of negative 2. So there's my inequality simplified. This is one of those cases where I need to turn it around, so remember I'm going to rewrite it as h is less than or equal to negative 2. Notice how the opening of my inequality is pointing at the negative 2, just like it was before. I had to pick up and turn the whole thing around. Now I'm going to put it on my number line. So negative 2 is my boundary point. I'm going to get my bubble ready. I need to fill in this boundary point. This is a closed circle because I see that h is less than or equal to negative 2. Since it says h can be less than or equal, I want to shade in the negative direction, including my arrow, so showing that my number line will continue. Lastly, I want to take a second and do my check. So I'm going to pick a number in my solution set. In this case, I'm going to go with negative 3. And I'm going to plug negative 3 into my equation. So negative 12 should be greater than or equal to 10 plus 11 times negative 3. 11 times negative 3 is negative 33. 10 minus 33 would be a negative 23, which is indeed smaller than a 12. So if I look at this expression, it says 12 is greater than or equal to negative 23. And that is a true statement. Positive 12 is the larger number. So it's good to always take that 30 seconds, choose a number to check, make sure that you have your open or closed circle, and make sure you've shaded in the right direction. So inequalities that look like this, you're really familiar with solving equations. Solving inequalities isn't that different. The only difference is you have a set of numbers that are your solution, you've shown on your number line, and your check will look a little different. So your check, you want to make sure that the bigger number or the smaller number falls where it's supposed to. I wanted to do one more example, especially one like this that includes fractions, because I know that there's a lot of students that have been asking questions about these fractional coefficients. So this inequality says negative 1 is less than h over 2 plus 1. So again, I'm going to treat this less than sign just like an equal sign, and I'm going to try to get the h by itself. I see a plus 1, so my first step is going to be to subtract 1 from both sides. Now I have h over 2 and negative 1 minus 1, which would leave me with negative 2. Now when I see h over 2, this means h is being divided by 2. So I have to think to myself, the opposite of dividing something by 2 would be multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 2. Multiplying by 2 cancels out, so I have h left, and a negative 2 times a positive 2 would give me a negative 4 as my answer. Again, I need to turn this around, so I'm going to write that h is greater than negative 4. Notice that I turned around every piece of my inequality. The opening of my inequality was pointed toward h, so now the opening of my inequality is still pointed toward h. All right, so we need h to be greater than -4. I'm going to start with my boundary point on -4. This time, I'm going to leave it as an open circle since it says h needs to be greater than -4. I can't include. And I'm going to shade in the positive direction, including my arrow, to show all of the numbers in my solution set, all of the numbers that are greater than -4. All right, last step, I'm going to do a quick check. So I need to pick a number. Let's pick 0. If 0 is shaded, that's always a good number to pick just because it's easy to plug in and get things to cancel out. It's probably our simplest choice. So I have back to the original, -1 is less than 0 over 2 plus 1. 0 over 2, anything divided by 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So 0 divided by 2 is 0 plus 1, which just leaves me with a 1. So now I read my inequality. It says -1 is less than +1, and this is a true statement. So remember, when you're solving these inequalities, treat them just like equations. Solve them like you would if it was an equal sign, and the only difference is when you end up with your solution, it's a solution on a number line. There's lots of answers, not just one, and you want to make sure that your solution, when you check it, makes a true statement. So something like -1 is smaller than +1. Remember, if you see something in your check that says something ridiculous, like 10 is less than 2 or something like that, we know that something is wrong either with our solving or with our shading. So you need to go back and reassess all of the work that you did, or maybe even start over. Okay? Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great day. Make sure you practice your IXL.